What's up, guys? How are you? Happy Saturday. Welcome in to another episode of the Daily Juice Podcast. My name is Matt Peralta. I'm your host for this 365-day, 10 to 15-minute podcast that's always being brought to you by friends at DraftKings. Okay, good to get back in the winning column after Monday win, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday loss, Friday win. We get there. Kevin Durant and Booker lit up the scoreboard. They scored 134 points themselves. Suns easily over against the Jazz. The Nebraska Cornhuskers hammered Indiana at home. We get those two bets right. Philadelphia got worked by Indiana. That was the bad bet of the day. But a 2-1 mark, we go up 0.9 units, which puts us right there for a winning week if we're able to do well here on Saturday and on Sunday. I have two college basketball plays and one college football play for us here with Army-Navy on a Saturday. This podcast, however, is being brought to you by DraftKings and the Pick 6 app. Go and download that app. Use the code JUICE at sign up. You play $5. You get $50 instantly in Pick 6 credits. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. 18 plus in most eligible jurisdictions, but other age and eligibility restrictions may apply. Valid only in jurisdictions where DraftKings Pick 6 operates. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including but not limited to New York and California, Ontario. Void where prohibited. For terms, go to pick6.draftkings.com/promos. All right, let's start with Army-Navy. I have been to this game. The pageantry, the history, the rivalry, it's all beautiful. This is an unbelievable game. This game has been an underplay since I started betting 20 years ago, okay? This week, this year, hold on. 39.5 or 40? 39.5. Interesting. These teams generally play under games versus each other. However, Navy scores 30.6 points per game. Army scores 32.1 points per game. They're both in the top 40 for offense. Now, Army's defense is good, just 15.7 points per game. That's sixth best. Navy's isn't bad, 23.4 points per game. That's still top 50. Against the run, defensively, Army gives up 3.9 yards per rush, with obviously triple options, a big deal. 4.5 yards per rush given up for Navy. Navy gives up 7 yards per pass play. Army, 10.7 yards per pass play is number one in all of college football. But don't sleep on Navy. Their 9 yards per pass play is sixth best in college football. Both Army and Navy this year have been way more on the over side than in years past. Navy is 7-4 to the over. Army is 7-5 to the over. Navy is 3-3 on the road. Army is 3-2 on the road. But you look at some of their, Tulane went under for Navy, but Navy scored 35 points in that game. Against Tulane, Army scored 35 points in that game. Now, they gave up 14 points. That's why their game went over. But, Navy didn't give up any points. East Carolina, total was 53.5 for Army, went over by 19.5 points. They won the game 45-28. Navy played also against East Carolina. They scored 34 points. 34, and they gave up 20. 54.5, it didn't cover on the hook, but it got right there to 54.5. This total is 39.5, guys. 39.5. Against UAB, Navy scored 41 points. Army scored 44 points. I know everyone says Army, Navy, military academies, bet the under, automatic bet to the under. No, I'm not doing that. This game's being played in D.C., not being played in Philadelphia like it normally does. I'm going over. I'm going to say offenses rule here. Army, Navy, I always bet the under. I said it last night, Army, Navy under, right? And then I thought about it and looked at the numbers and went, no. I know Navy's gone under 4 of the last 5 games. I'll give that to you. But Navy has been scoring in every game except the Rice game, 28, 35, and I guess they gave up 35 points. Sorry, they lost that game 35-0, right? To Tulane? Yeah, they lost that game. Sorry, I got that wrong. They didn't win that game. They lost that game. They got blanked. But East Carolina, they scored 34 points the next week. 34-0, 28, and 10 points. But 34 points, 51 points, 41 points, 56 points, 38 points, 49 points. These are Navy offense. Army's been great. Army's been flying over this year, but they've scored 35 and 29 the last 2 weeks. They gave up 49 to Notre Dame, but this is a team that has offensive firepower. They will throw the football. Navy can score. Army can score. Let's go with fumbles, turnovers, and over points. Over 39.5. Army and Navy for 1.1 units. Bet number 2, the Creighton Blue Jays are on the road for their first true road game of the year up against Alabama. So we're going to fade Creighton, right? First game on the road. The number's 11.5. Like, hold on a second. 11.5? Okay, so here's a couple interesting things. The Blue Jays are going to face an Alabama team that is missing one of their best players who ruptured his Achilles tendon. He's out for the entire year. So that's going to be interesting. Latrell Wrightsell, good player from Omaha, was recruited by Preston Murphy, who was on Coach Greg McDermott's staff when all of that scandal broke out. The fall guy there was Preston Murphy. Where did he go? Alabama. Okay, he's a good recruiter. How Creighton fares in their first true road game is a very big indicator as to how the year is going to go. The Jays are 7-7 straight up under Greg McDermott in their first true road game of the season. When the Jays have won their first true road game on the road, first true road game, they've made the tournament every year. When they have lost, they have they've missed the tournament 4 of 6 years when they have lost. Now, when there was a postseason, they had a COVID year situation that came in there. Last year for the Jays, they played against Oklahoma State, and they won the game 79-65 on the road, and they made the tournament. Against Texas, number 2 team in the country, they lost 72-67. I think the Jays are going to lose this game, but I'm really surprised at the number, 11.5. Ken Pom has this as an 11-point win for Alabama. But Alabama at home hasn't been killing people. They're 4-5 against the number overall. They're 1-2 against the number at home. They covered against NC Asheville as 27.5-point favorites. They won by 56. But against Arkansas State, they laid 25, won by 9. Against McNeese State, they laid 17.5. They won by 8. Then they went on the road and lost to Purdue outright in their first true road game. Then they went to Vegas and played Illinois, Houston, and Rutgers. They played neutral against Illinois in Birmingham. They won that game by 13. They laid 8.5. They won by 13 in Birmingham. And then they played against Houston, won by 5. Rutgers, laying 11.5, won by 5. They laid 6.5 against Oregon. They lost outright. Dana Altman, former coach of the Creighton Blue Jays. You don't think Greg McDermott's going to watch the way Coach Altman attacked them? Then they played against North Carolina on the road and housed Carolina. I was on Carolina. So maybe I'm dead wrong in Alabama. And this is one of those, we had this with Duke, where I was like, okay, with Kansas and Duke, if KU didn't cover, they won the game outright, but if KU didn't cover and Duke cost me more money, I was like, okay, no more Duke games. If Alabama wins this game by 15 points, I'll just stop betting against Alabama. But the Jays are 3-0 against Alabama in their history. And Greg McDermott normally will slow down a team like an Alabama, who is 8th in average possession length. The Jays are 123rd. Jays like to play fast, but when their opponent has the advantage for playing fast, they're going to slow it down. Without Pop Isaacs either, I think Creighton also looks to slow the tempo down, not get into a track meet here at all. The Jays shooting threes this year, 162nd. That's not good. Alabama's defense is great against the 3. 20th, but the Jays are 5th best in 2-point shooting because of Ryan Kalkbrenner, who is going to be an issue on the interior here for a guard-heavy team. I mean, Grant Nelson is 6'11", but he's not a post player. He's a wing. He wants to shoot. Kalkbrenner is going to get into the lane, and I think he could have a big game here. I think Ryan Kalkbrenner could be the key. As long as he stays out of foul trouble, and as long as Stephen Ashworth can hit threes and get Jackson McAndrew some looks so he could hit threes as well. I think they keep the game close. I think Alabama wins the game, but give me the 11.5 points. I think this is too many points. Jay's losing fine. Getting destroyed. If this was 6 or 7, I would be all over Alabama. 11.5 just seems to be too heavy. I'll take a shot. It's ugly. It may be risky, but I'm taking a shot. I'm going with the dog here. Creighton Blue Jays plus 11.5 on the road at Alabama. That game on the SEC Network with an 8:30 Eastern time tip. And finally, Arizona is on the road. Arizona is at Phoenix, semi-neutral, up against UCLA. It'll be a heavily partisan Arizona crowd. So when you look at the numbers, you're like, okay, UCLA at home is a dead under, 6-1 to the under. But they're not at home. I mean, technically, they're the home team here for this, I guess. But no, Arizona's 4-0 away from home this year. Arizona played, where did they play on a neutral? This in a similar arena. They played up against Oklahoma, right? In that game? Yeah, that was against Oklahoma. And they lost the game outright, 82-77. Then they lost to West Virginia in overtime, 83-76. Not been a good start to the year. 4 losses for Arizona, but 75-74 is the projection here. A win against UCLA is the projection for the Wildcats. It's 149. Total of this game is 147, mostly because, well, who they're playing, UCLA, a team that wants to slow down the tempo dramatically. Arizona's offense is 6th in average possession length. UCLA is 153rd. They want to burn the clock. They want to run it down. But three-point shooting has been bad for Arizona, 237th. Two-point percentage, a little better, 112th. But they get a ton of offensive rebounds. They've been good with offensive efficiency. And as long as they keep the tempo up and push tempo on UCLA, UCLA can score. I mean, they're not outstanding at it, but they're not horrible either. Last game on the road against Oregon, they won 73-71. The game went over by 6.5 points at 137.5. So this is the first quote-unquote, they had a neutral game against New Mexico, but this is a hostile environment for UCLA. They've not played a true road game yet. We'll watch that and we'll fade UCLA when they do play a true road game. But 4 games in a row have gone over for Arizona, 3 of them on neutral, 1 at home, by 22.5, 4.5, 7.5, and 9.5. They've scored 102, 76, 77, and 104 in the last 4 games, and they've given up 71, 82, 83, and 66. I think UCLA can score 70 points here. If they do, this game's going to go over. It's always dangerous to bet overs involving UCLA, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to bet the over on UCLA and Arizona. So 3 plays for us here on a Saturday. Army-Navy over 39.5. That's scary. Creighton Blue Jays on the road. First true road game against Alabama, plus 11.5. That's scary. Arizona UCLA over 147. Anytime you bet over with UCLA, that's scary. That's a scary card. Fade away if you want, but that's just looking at numbers and playing thoughts and somewhat gut plays on this on a Saturday, going against kind of the common thought as to what people will think, oh, no, that's a bad play. Okay, maybe it is, maybe it's not. We'll figure it out later on today. Remember, no live chat today. Only 1 college football game. We'll look to bring that back probably next week for the college football playoffs. Maybe for a quickie conversation on Saturday, but I'll give you more details on that coming up later on in the week. But nothing here today on a Saturday for me. My name's Matt Peralt. Follow me across all socials at Sports Talk Matt. Every morning, it's the Daily Juice Podcast presented by DraftKings.